Hey, Richest you money maniacs, welcome back. In this video, I want to talk about businesses that are too big to fail and what that means for you while you're mastering your finances. Let's get right to it. Hey, Richest you money maniacs. Tom coming at you. Thanks so much for tuning in. In this video, I wanted to share with you guys the idea that a lot of folks nowadays just seem to take for granted. The idea that some businesses are just too big to fail. They are bailed out by the government, by our tax dollars, going to make sure that they keep their doors open because they're too big, and if so many people lose their jobs, well, they'll be unemployed and the business would go under. And then you wouldn't have that service anymore. And we can't function without that service. We can't live on this planet happily without that service. Think about that for a second. What business, honestly, can you never ever live without again?
Bueller.
There isn't one. There isn't one business in the world that you can actually list that if it went out of business, you would die and the world would stop spinning and chaos would reign the universe. Not Apple, not Microsoft, not even Johnson & Johnson, not Shearing Plow, not Boeing. If all of those companies went out of business tomorrow, if all of your internet providers went out of business tomorrow, if all the grocery stores went out of business tomorrow, you would not die. So how is it that nowadays we've been conditioned as consumers or as voters, right, or as citizens of this country, that there's this magic point where if you get enough employees and you have enough business across the country or around the world, that suddenly you're too big to fail? It's absolutely vital to the U.S. economy that you keep your doors open. Well, I think now, after this big health challenge has passed, it's become very obvious that actually that's not true at all for any business. The cruise lines are going out of business and we're all still alive. All of the airlines have shrunk. They're barely flying at all. They're not making any money at all. In fact, they're burning more money than they're actually making. And we're still alive. Even after this pandemic, we're still alive. The earth is still spinning. Everybody's still doing business. A lot of people have lost their jobs. Yeah, it's very, very hard times for a lot of people, but they're not dead. It reminds me of the scene in The Hangover.
But did you die?
I got shot.
But did you die?
I went through a pandemic.
But did you die?
The cruise lines are failing.
But did you die?
All the malls across the world are closing.
But did you die?
The airlines are shrinking. They're failing.
But did you die?
The banking system is falling apart.
But did you die?
They're raising taxes again.
But did you die?
You get my point, right? I'm beating a dead horse at this point. There's no excuse for any business to be bailed out at any point by U.S. tax dollars. It's inexcusable, and all it does is point out the crony capitalism that reigns supreme in the United States of America right now. See, this may be a big newsflash to you, but there is no such thing as a free market anymore. It's all crony capitalism. Free market means that you and I can exchange value and nobody interferes. Not government, not anybody, nothing. But now you've got lobbying parties and you've got special interest groups and you've got politicians who make careers of it. I mean, there's something we could talk about for a few hours as term limits for, Congress people. Why does someone need to be in politics for 47 years? Why don't they do what the forefathers set that job up to be, which is public service? You go in, you do it for a few years, and then you get back to producing something. You get back to being part of the private sector and bringing value to the country. See, that's the thing about government, and you've seen me say this in other videos. They don't create value. Government doesn't create value. All it does is steal either a tax or inflation or other means, and then redistribute it to their friends, right? Who are they closest with? Oh, well, it goes back to their constituents. Does it though? I think you should do a little more homework. I think you'd find out the money doesn't go back there. Now, so if this is the case, right, that businesses are too big to fail, how does that help you learn to master your finances? Well, first and foremost, you have to think about what would happen if they did fail. What if they were allowed to fail? You would be able, as an entrepreneur, to start up a replacement airline or a replacement cruise line or a replacement grocery store or a replacement whatever, new Apple, a new Microsoft, a new computer company, a new high-tech something. You come up with a better idea, you do it more efficiently, and you actually provide a better quality service. Oh, sounds a lot like the free market. What happens after a forest fire? New growth. So let them fail. Let those big companies fail. Now, if they don't, right? If they don't, what that means is now the tax dollars are where the company is making the money. And that means that that business is nationally owned. It's reliant upon U.S. tax dollars to keep it afloat. Now, this is not a new concept. There are two big examples immediately that come to mind that you may not have thought of, that companies and services that have been nationalized already and are still to this day completely unprofitable. They don't turn a profit ever. Guess what they are? Number one is the United States Post Office. Yep. And number two is Amtrak. They were too big to fail, so they never were allowed to fail, and they've been zombie corpses ever since. Think about that for a second. That's what happens when the government gets a hold of a company. So the theme of this video is, hey, what's wrong with letting a business fail, right? Nothing. Because when it fails, guess what happens to all of the parts of that company? It gets sold off to somebody else who does a better job. What happens to all those employees? Well, they become unemployed for a while, but then somebody else needs to fill that need. So if the airlines were to fail, United went out of business, American went out of business, all those planes would be sold to a new airline who would then hire all the good employees from the old airline, all the employees that actually did the job well and brought value to the company. That's who would get hired. So if you were an employee and you were just spinning your wheels and you were part of the union and you just kind of didn't do much, you probably wouldn't get hired with the new company because they wouldn't be under the same restrictions as the old company and they wouldn't have to hire you and have to pay you more than you're worth. See, that's the thing. There's still the demand for travel, right? There's still the demand for many other things. Even if a grocery chain were to fail, there's still the need for groceries. So when those businesses fail, that's your opportunity to move into that market and provide a better structure, a better business, a better model. That's the idea. Especially if you're mastering your own finances, you're always looking for opportunities to invest in. Now, maybe you don't have enough to be able to buy and build a whole new company yourself. But then again, maybe you do. If you don't, when you see a new company come along like that and replace one that's failed, then you'll know, okay, here's a good opportunity to invest in this company one way or another. Maybe you want to get into the stock market with that company. I wouldn't suggest it right now. Or maybe you could approach the company directly and invest with them privately or in some other way because you're so excited about what the business does. I mean, come on. If you're really excited about a company, say like SpaceX, if I were really excited about what they're doing and the success they're having, I would quit my job and go and get a job with SpaceX, even if it were just as a janitor so I could work my way up to a higher paying job, to a better job, to be part of that movement, part of that improving of the marketplace, of that industry. If it were in high tech, then I would go and work at a high tech company that's up and coming, right? And prove my worth and work my way up through the company and be part of that cutting edge of new technology that changes the industry forever. right? See, now you're looking at a business failing a very different way. It's not that they're falling apart and there's no hope and the world's going to screech to a halt. It's, hey, there's a really wonderful opportunity for me either to invest or to start a new business myself. So think about that. When they say a business is too big to fail, look at who's saying that and look at who gets paid when they're saved. Not the workers. The workers don't get paid. Not the public. They get poor service, right? Because now that company has no motivation to improve their service or to improve their pricing or improve the quality of their product, because they know they've reached that magic point where they'll always be bailed out. That is why there's nothing wrong with letting a business fail. In fact, even if you have your own business and it's failing, claim bankruptcy, take that as much as you can and roll it into your next adventure, because every time you fail, you learn something. And the only time you fail is either when you quit or you stop learning, right? All right, so I hope this was helpful. Watch very closely what happens in the next few years, because a lot of businesses have already been closing and a lot more are going to be closing. Not just because of the health challenge that we've been going through, but more importantly because of the really irresponsible fiscal policies that have been occurring in the country en masse at city, county, state, and national levels. Completely irresponsible spending, empire building, just completely irresponsible. And that means now, with everything basically up in the air because of the health challenge, there's going to be a lot of failures. So look for your opportunities. And remember, there's nothing wrong with letting a business fail. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.